Welcome to the Resilient Woman Leadership Podcast, where professionally minded women explore the art of grounding into the powerful foundation that makes us resilient leaders in business and in life. I'm your host, Kathryn Regganie, and I believe that when we women connect deeply with our truest selves, we can collectively shift our leadership culture towards compassion, cohesion, and true creativity. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode. This week is a solo episode where I'm really going to talk about more of what Christine Campbell Rapin and I talked about last week. What really makes a truly good, resilient leader? Is it their charisma or their ability to really get the crowd going? Is it their willingness to make those tough decisions? Because not everybody can do that. So today I'm going to dive deeper into the types of leadership, the world needs most right now, and how you can align this with your unique strengths and leadership style. Get to uncover how your inner dragon woman can really transform into that resilient, wise woman leader, even in those moments of judgments, tough calls, and uncertainty. So last week, Christine had mentioned three different types of leaders. First is the popularity-driven leader. And this is the kind of leader who's really very surface level decision making. They might not really think about the decisions that are truly right for themselves, for the team, or for the company. But they're really they just want to be popular. They want that title for whatever reason, and there's really no substance behind it. And in my system, this seems to align with the ice dragon archetype. This person overpromises on deliverables simply because they're just trying to please everybody in their specific leadership role, whatever that is. So one thing I would like you to consider or ask yourself is, are you trying to please everyone in your leadership role? And how is that working for you? The second one is the opinionated leader. I know I've run into lots of opinionated leaders in my lifetime. And these leaders are grounded in their personal conviction, but they're really limited in their personal perspective. Like, what's going on around them? How is this specific decision going to affect everybody else? Maybe a great decision for themselves, but maybe not so much for the team or the company. So these sort of leaders relate to sort of the fire dragon archetype in my system. They're really strong, but sometimes they're just too focused on their individual fire and not everybody else's. So one thing that I invite you to ask yourself is, do you have a clear opinion that aligns with your values in this way? And the company's values, are they aligned? And then the third type of leader that Christine mentioned, which I liked it because it really helped correlate the resilient woman, or the resilient wise woman archetype that's in my system. This kind of leader is the kind that really balances the humanity, the facts, and being decisive. This is the rare leader who acts boldly and thoughtfully. This is where you can really start to bring in your feminine, wise woman qualities to really help yourself, help advance your team, and help advance your company. I think this is really where we're all striving to end up one day. But there are some challenges when we think of all of these different leadership styles. One challenge is the fear of judgment when we're making those bold decisions. How are people going to take that? And how can I take that judgment from other people when we're making those tough decisions? we sometimes hesitate just because of those judgment calls. What will people think of me if I make this specific decision? But once you really step into that wise woman leader role, you'll have that confidence to really be okay with making that judgment call and maybe even asking people for their opinions correctly to help you make a judgment call. The second one is the paralysis of indecision. And this relates to some decisions that need to be made. And if they're not made, it causes some stagnation or some frustration. And this can happen quite a bit. I remember several times in meetings where people just couldn't make a decision because they didn't want, like I said before, they didn't want to have the judgment, or if this is the wrong decision, I might get demoted or even fired. And then the third challenge is really aligning those decisions with yourself, your personal values, and how that ties into the corporate values. Because sometimes when we're not aligned, this is really how burnout and stress can really result. And it's because we're not really focused on our personal alignment or our true authentic self, which can be a problem for a lot of us. I know it was for me. And this is where my process really fits into, working on your leadership path, the resilient woman leadership path. And really the first step is really discovering your own unique leadership system, understanding which leadership archetype you fall in, which dragon archetype do you have, so that you can understand that dragon and really then step into that resilient, wise woman leadership. So that's our first step, is really understanding and uncovering that. And then the second step is really leveraging your leadership power, grounding yourself into who you are, grounding yourself into your wisdom centers of your body, so that you can really take a look at the facts, look at your values and your unique strengths to make strong decisions. And then we step into really trusting your leadership style. And this is where you're developing the confidence to withstand the judgments and criticism that we all face every day, regardless of whether we're in the boardroom or not. Being able to withstand those judgments, to stay in our authenticity, to stay in truth to who we are, and bring that to the world and build respect upon that. And when we can really do that, then we can light our path forward, our leadership path forward, because we'll be able to make decisions. We'll learn from our mistakes and we'll continue to grow. And we'll be able to say, hey, maybe I made a mistake and let's pivot. Let's go this specific direction. When I was in corporate America, there was a lot of times where I would be sitting in meetings and there was a lot of indecision. And at some point in my career, not at the beginning, but somewhere in the middle, I started saying, okay, if we need a scapegoat, just blame it on me. Let's get through this. Let's make decisions that make sense to us, and let's move forward. Because there was a lot of just indecisions. They didn't want to, get run over. They didn't want to get fired. They didn't want to take the blame, shall we say. And I remember just being in those boardrooms thinking to myself, oh my gosh, if we're stuck here in this indecisiveness, nothing's ever going to get done. So I would often be the one to say, okay, if you need a scapegoat, just use me. Let's make decisions and let's move on. Took a lot of people by surprise. However, it got things done and made people move forward with the decision-making process. And some of the, action steps that we can really start practicing now is really embrace judgment. Embrace it. Everybody judges us every day. And you can reframe judgment as sort of a validation that you're taking a stand, kind of like what I just talked about, just being the scapegoat if you need to. Reframe that as validation that you're taking a stand. Hey, let's make a decision. Let's get it done. Then you can set a framework. Use your values and facts as the foundation for every decision. Maybe you have a value statement. And how does that align with what you're doing in your corporation, in your own business, in your own life? And then use that as the foundation for every decision. If you don't have a value statement or really understand your values, I invite you to really think about it, write them down, and make sure that it's in alignment with how you're living your life and doing your work every single day. And then another action, we can just take action. Even if it's a flawed decision, it's better than stagnation. You can learn as you go, and you can pivot as you need to. And then ask yourself, what do I want in this particular moment? That's an easy question, yet so complicated. What do you want? And how does that want align with who you are? Who is that your authentic self? True leadership really requires courage, decisiveness, and alignment with your true values. It also requires you to really stand in your feminine leadership, knowing how to use the tools of emotional intelligence and learning how to use the tools of nervous system regulation. These are some really great, powerful tools that feminine leadership can teach you. I encourage you to take the Dragon Woman quiz so that you can discover your leadership archetype or your dragon type, which then you can discover your leadership archetype. And once you do that, you can start to look at creating your own leadership map. And I have those unique leadership mapping sessions that I'm giving away right now. And I'll have all of this in the show notes. And then I also encourage you to share your leadership challenges on social media or via email so that I can talk to some of this during other episodes. I really encourage you to take the Dragon Woman quiz, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Thanks for listening to the Resilient Woman Leadership Podcast. Remember to take my Dragon Woman quiz at dragonwomanquiz.com. In just 2 minutes, this fun quiz will reveal your Dragon Woman and connect you to the resources so that you can leverage her power for good. And if you've enjoyed this episode, subscribe now so you can hear more inspiring stories from other resilient, wise women who will uplift and inspire you. Your review really matters to me, so please gift me back by reviewing this episode. Want more Kathryn? You can find me at energy-pathways.com.